Life of a U.S. Soldier, World War I by Emily and Taylor Williams. Why men joined the Army. When the men signed up for the Army, it was because most of their friends had signed up as well. Not only that, but $1.10 a day was great pay and you had the chance to travel overseas. It was an opportunity you just couldn't put down. Over 6 months after signing up for the Army, it was not quite what the men were looking for. They hoped to be marching into Germany gloriously, dashing cavalry charges, getting cheers from citizens, and winning all kinds of prizes. But no, for all their time spent in France, they had to sit around in the same dirty, disgusting ditch. The soldiers did not get what they were promised, and they weren't happy about it at all. They had to leave their families back at home, worrying about them, and rather than getting to spend fun days with all their friends, they were on strict rules and had barely any freedom.
Daily schedule. The life of a U.S. soldier's daily schedule was to be trained, whether regiments were well or badly trained. Discipline and care for depended largely on its officers. Regiments camped where they could for gag or for and often for food, and depended on their own resources or shelters, and on friends and relatives for amusement and for luxuries. Uniforms. A U.S. soldier's completely equipped for their service. On his back, this American fighting man carries a blanket roll, small shovel bag he contained as his belt. He is armed with a .30 caliber U.S. Army rifle, minimum weight for maximum efficiency, and the principle upon which his whole outfit has been designed.
Living in a trench. When soldiers were at war, they had to live in trenches for a long period of time with many other men. Living in these trenches was not easy for them, and they had to suffer through a lot. In the trenches, there was rat infestation, which was when giant rats, about the size of cats, crawled around and lived off of eating humans. The men feared these rats, and at night, when they would lay down to go to sleep, the rats would crawl across their faces. Also, there were lice and other bugs and insects that were constantly crawling around and spreading diseases. Since there were many dirty men living together for such a long period of time, these diseases took very long to cure and they spread very quickly. The worst thing about living in a trench was the smell. When any man died, rather than burying the body, they left it in the trench to rot out. Men were also unable to bathe, so after a while, they began to smell of repulsive odor. Not only was there dirty body odor, but the latrines would overflow as well. To add on to those, there was also cigarette smoke, poison gas, and rotting sandbags to create a nauseating smell. Chores. Every day, each man would be assigned a different daily chore by the commander. A few of those chores included refilling sandbags, repairing the duckboards on the floors, draining the trenches, etc. These jobs were extremely necessary because if the men did not take care of their trenches, they would begin to collapse from all the poor weather and attacks from their enemies. It was not easy to fulfill all of these jobs, and whenever the men would go to do their chore, they always had to be aware of sudden attacks ahead of them. Also, when the soldiers were assigned their chore, they couldn't slack off at all and were checked on multiple times to make sure they were doing their job and didn't fall asleep on duty.
Food. A soldier in World War I only got to eat a little bit of food. They only got to eat 26 half ounces of bread, 17 ounces of filled biscuits, 14 ounces of egg biscuits, 53 ounces of potatoes, 4.5 ounces of vegetables, 2 ounces of dry vegetables. This is only what they got to eat after training.
Sleeping. While surviving in the trenches during the war, sleeping was almost impossible. Between the artillery fire pounding down on their position and all of the hard work they were forced to do all day, they were going insane from the lack of sleep they got. Each night they only got about 5 hours of sleep or less and had to suffer from the cold air around them. Later in the day, when the men thought they were not being attacked and had some free time to lay down and take a nap, the lieutenants would wake them up and inform them that they had to go on duty soon. Depending on their work hours, some soldiers had to stay up very late and get up very early in the morning to start a new day at war. Boredom. During the war, the soldiers had no time to themselves and had no freedom to do what they wanted. Their actions were very restricted and weren't able to move until nightfall. Whenever the men wanted to write letters home, read, or do whatever they felt like doing, they weren't able to unless they got assigned.